Viewers, welcome to another episode of the Uniben Alumni Series. It's a program where we showcase the men and women who have attended one of the greatest tertiary institutions in Nigeria, the University of Benin. We talk about Uniben, everything Uniben, their time as students of the great Uniben. And on today's episode, we have a great woman with us, a woman of service as she's regarded as. She's a consultant gynecologist both in the United Kingdom and in Nigeria. She's the president, University of Benin Alumni Association, United Kingdom branch. She's a politician. She's a writer. She's a woman with different progressive paths. She's Dr. Loretta Ogboro-Okor. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Kevin Omokaro, and to everyone out there who is listening. Thank you for joining us. To those who are going to listen later, we are more than elated that you are all there listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Firstly, let me appreciate you for all you continue to do for our institution, for our alma mater. There are a lot. If we start to list the things you do for our institution, this interview will span hours. Thank you so much. We appreciate.
You're welcome. Whatever we do, we see it as a stimulant to actually help others to come in and do even better and bigger than ourselves. We are humble. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. We'll start off. I could understand that your secondary school in Benin was Federal Government Girls College in Benin. Was proximity the reason why you chose Uniben for your tertiary institution?
All right, thank you. So most people may not know, but I always wanted to be an architect at some point in my life. I started out wanting to be a doctor. Then I traveled around Nigeria. I went to Federal Government Girls College, like you said. I graduated in the 94 set. I was head girl before I left the school. And along the way, I wrote a lot of essays, in Nigeria at the time for Unity schools, organized by Chevron, Shell, the federal government, and I won every essay I wrote. So I started traveling around the country with my teacher that is sent with me, the official vehicle, at the expense of the school, the federal government, and the Unity school. And in all of these journeys, I started seeing beautiful buildings from the north of Nigeria down to the south, from the east to the west. And I started discovering that architecture, building is really unique. So my first love for medicine, I just said, you know what, that's probably because of my dad, who was a public health consultant and an epidemiologist. My dad actually established the first primary healthcare center with Professor Gregory Akenzo and Nobada in Edo State. And then I thought, no. All these beautiful buildings, I should be able to make do and create even better and bigger ones. I was really fascinated by using our red earth, a kembai, as Edo we call it, that red sand, to create bricks that can really stand the test of time that we use for building. So I did building technology in secondary school, did technical drawing, really preparing to be this great architect. And then my father fell sick. My father was unwell. And at that time, there was no proper arch in Uniben. It was either I go to Ekboma or I go to Ife. So I decided, you know what, I'll have to stay. Let's look after daddy and let me go back to medicine and study medicine. But I think for me, the key was I could do anything I wanted to do and do it well. I knew that from a very young age because my dad used to tell me. So yes, it was proximity, but not proximity for me per se, but my own proximity to my dad. I wanted to be close to my father and be able to take care of him with the rest of my family, my mom and my other siblings.
Okay. Please, I want to clarify, I want to get something clear. Are you saying it was because your father was ill at that point, was sick at that point, that is why you decided to study medicine?
Yes, because at that point, to be clear, my dad was unwell. So I couldn't leave him and go to Ife. I couldn't leave him and go to Ekpoma. I wanted to stay nearby so that I could join my mother and my siblings to care for my dad. Because what happened is that my dad was 30 years older than my mom. I used to laugh at my dad that he was a serial monogamist, serial polygamist, I mean, because he had a couple of different wives, but they were never really in the house at the same time. So I always used to laugh. And my mom was the last wife who now lived with him. So being 30 years older than my mother, he was already old. When we were born, my father was old. In fact, in primary school, they used to laugh at me. Your old papa will soon come with his old motto, those kind of things. So along the line, he got unwell, a lot of it from old age, but majorly the complications of late onset asthma. And then obviously, as with any chronic lung disease, he started having some cardiac impairment and all. So he really needed care. And I always tell people, because we lived with my dad at the time and really took care of him, we actually added like 10 years to his life. So I understood that, and I decided to stay with my dad and my mom and my other siblings at the time so that we can all optimize his care. Going far from home was not an option, so that I can help them look after him. And because of that, because there was no architecture in Uniben and I couldn't go far, I had to switch and then say, let me just do that medicine anyway.
During the course of your study, while you were studying medicine in Uniben, did you at any point have this thought, because your first love, as you said, was architecture? Did you at any point have this thought, this is not where I'm supposed to be? Was there any point during the course of study that you had that thought?
No, actually, I think for me, I knew that anything I wanted to do, I would do well. So I never actually sort of felt out of place. I just believed, oh yes, I'm acquiring all this knowledge and I'll be very versatile in life in every field. Because interestingly, even in Federal Government Girls College in Benin, I was one of those few students that did literature, which is like pure arts and the sciences,
Yeah.
And then I did technical drawing and building technology. By the time I came into year one in Uniben, I was teaching engineering students technical drawing. Oh yeah, I was a medical student at that time. And I think for me, I never have had those regrets. Yes, sometimes when things are challenging, you are like, I beg who send me safe. But I may use my hand and fill my jam form. And anything I start, I see to a logical conclusion, to the grace and glory of God, So for me, it's been fine. I'm not regretting. I'm one of those people that I'm fortunate because building my houses, I have major input. Designing any city which I will happen to lead or head tomorrow, or even a state, working with the architects, the surveyors, constructing bridges, I have optimal first-hand knowledge. I know exactly what to do. And that's that's the way I saw it. So I never regretted it.
Your Uniben experience, how can you, in few words, what can you say about your Uniben experience as a student?
I have one flyer which I made into a t-shirt. Maybe you've seen it. Made in Uniben.
Yeah.
It's a production line. That's the way I see Uniben. And in that production line, you are subjected to a lot of pressures. Because in life, they say it is pressure that makes diamond a lot stronger than anything else in this world. When you start out, it's just ordinary carbon. But pressure from being buried within the earth's core will change it to diamond. If you look at iron as well, when you pass raw iron through heat, you get steel. You refine it and you get steel. So I actually see Uniben as, in hindsight, and when I was going through Uniben, I saw it as a production line that was refining me at the time and making me a better version of me. I saw it as the pressure that was going to create the diamond from the raw material. Don't forget, I went to Federal Government Girls College in Benin, which is just like strolling into Uniben from the back gate. And in Federal Benin, being a border, I've been exposed to what it means to actually have grit and tenacity to survive. So coming into Uniben for me was like, okay, now this is part B of that grilling that you have been getting. And don't forget that life has been throwing us lemons and pepper, and we're making lemonades and pepper soup in my family at the time because my dad became really unwell and a lot of things were going down south. So it simply meant that I had to grow up quickly. I tell people, and in my book, My Father's Daughter, you see where I wrote it, I actually said the bubble burst and I had to grow up really, really quickly. So Uniben created that avenue where, despite all the challenges, no water, there were lecturers who were leeches, Kevin. There were lecturers who were leeches in medical school at the time, especially in the department of pediatrics. You know, they would tell you had to sleep with them to pass. And interestingly, what really baffled me is that there were also high-flying women in those departments who did nothing about the stresses that women, these young girls, us at the time, were passing through. What they will say is, oh, it's the way you are dressed, it's the way you look. Did I create myself? I mean, like now, Kevin, my husband buys me most of my clothes, and a lot of them are flashy, contemporary. A lot of them, you know, they are the kind of clothes that people will say, this one is an unbeliever, the kind that people will label in society as unconventional. But my husband buys them for me, and the Bible says I should obey my husband in all things in the head of my home. So I'm wondering that all those times that people like us had to grow up quickly to navigate this terrain of sexual abuse in Uniben Medical School, where were these other women who had gone before us? Because like Google Scholar says, they should have been the shoulders we should stand on, you know, but they weren't there for us at the time. And interestingly, all of that growing up in Uniben, all of those challenges and navigating it have today really helped me in life, especially in my foray into politics. And I tell my daughter, I said, if a man comes after you and says, oh, I must have sex with you for tit or for tat, and you are able to negotiate it and stand your ground, fantastic. You don't even have to be angry with the man, but you have to be firm in your decision, and you have to show him that you are displeased. You can be displeased without anger and venom, and you'll be able to put people more in their place when you keep your calm without anger and without venom. And I learned then how to actually navigate them. Let me give you an example. Okay. And these are things that Uniben taught me. And I've chosen this one for today's discussion because, Kevin, I know most people will shy away from this subject matter and not want to talk about it and sweep it under the carpet. But I lived it. This is my reality. So I will talk about it. At the time, there were certain professors who, according to them, they really, really liked me. And they thought that I was only good for what lies between my legs and not what lies between my ears. So what did I have to do? I had to actually work hard to develop what lies between my ears, because I needed to show that, like my father always told me, I can be anything. I can use my brains. I can be top in my class. And Kevin, it gets how you take pass. Person go even they fear to go alter that mark. So you have to really, first of all, understand these dynamics. And then two, I will never insult anybody. I will never be rude, but I will stand my ground. So this professor will always come and say, come, let's go and do XYZ. In Abeni Guest House then, near Ugbowa was a popular location for some of them. Precious Farm Royal for some of them, you know. And I would nicely say no. So one day, one of them came and met me and said, ah, I hear you are dating Professor XYZ. And I said, do you have a problem with that? He said, ah, but he's our boss now. Why is he doing like this? We want to share in it. I said, really? With your boss? If you notice, I didn't deny it. I didn't accept it. I just said, really? With your boss? And then he goes, well, there's hierarchy in medicine, so we'll leave you first. And then he left. So I went to my boss, or this same professor. I said, ah, you see, somebody said today that he wants to come and sleep with me. And he was asking me that they hear that you are sleeping with me. He said, ah, no wonder they were looking at me one kind in today's meeting. So what did I tell them? I said, I just asked them, you want to share or eat what your boss is eating? And they've left me. And then he then said, come now, let's just do it now. See, everybody's accusing me. Why? I laughed. But you see, I was capitalizing on that male ego. I know that if they ask him, he's not going to say no. He's going to smile and feel, on top. And I knew that would serve as a protection for me. I don't know if you understand.
Yeah.
But some people will say, they are lying against me. I have to come out and tell the whole world I'm not sleeping with XYZ. My dear, if at that time that protects you from the other leeches, then you may just be maybe considering not saying yes, not saying no, and let them form their own impression while you get past. Because at the end of the day, one of such professors wrote a note to pediatrics and told all the rest, stay clear. And then you come and meet me and say, hey, now wow, now your guy just the chop. Now wow, now your guy just the chop. And these people have honor amongst thieves. They had honor amongst them. At the end, they started protecting me because they felt one of their big bosses was actually the one in charge. But meanwhile, he wasn't. And then my husband, who was just my friend, we're friends then, used to wonder, I mean, this is really happening? Wow, I used to hear this, but I said, don't worry, they are chess. We're going to play them like chess. So I'm speaking to every young woman out there, every woman out there. I learned a core lesson from my mom. When people approach you with these kind of proposals, disdainful proposals, as I would call them, you don't have to get angry. You have to keep your cool and you have to think how to navigate them. There were some who I kept saying no. They say, no, you must do this, you must do that. Then one day I'll tell them, I say, you see that person you call your mentor? That other professor you call your mentor? My father was the shorty that paid the money for him to go to school. They said, and they'll leave me alone. Everyone has what will work for them. Be smart enough to find out what works and what you can use to navigate your space. But I think one thing I learned is that you have to be the best at what you're doing. You have to have also studied your book and you're ready to pass. Well, that being said, there were people who will go to them and say, take me, come and do me. And they will tell those ones they don't want. It's even the ones that are saying no, that they will start running after and wanting to really punish for saying no. So you just have to, and Uniben taught me all of these things, and it's coming very, very, very handy. Being a surgeon, I work in a male-dominated world. Being a politician now, I work in a male-dominated world. Just being out there, I've been in a male-dominated world. It's a man's world. So that's what people say. So we are trying to say, no, women's lives matter. So we know that people will actually do things that want to upset us one time or the other. People who want to smear your name. What people don't understand, they want to label. But the important thing is, are you strong enough? Are you firm enough in your mind? Do you understand the value you bring to the table for you to be able to challenge conventional wisdom? And these were things I learned in University of Benin. But thank God my father had already set the foundation and taught me how to interrogate and challenge conventional wisdom. It doesn't mean being rude, it just means interrogating processes, asking why, reflecting, and doing things on your own terms.
Yeah. Thank you. This is quite unfortunate. These are just the dark sides you have mentioned. Um, let's talk about the finest moments. Definitely, I know you had wonderful time at the University of Benin. What are those fine moments you can still remember today, and you look back and said, "Oh, this was a great time in Uniben." What are those moments?
You know, Kevin, when you said these are the dark sides, you make me laugh because dark side, light side is it depends on
How you take it?
it's really subjective. What if being able to get a professor who has been hounding me off my back for ages and somebody who wants to fill me off my back is the brightest moment I say I ever had in Uniben? Yes,
Yes,
immediately. It was
that's
a bright moment for me.
very. We can't say it's actually something pleasant. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
it was.
yeah,
But to come to
you should not
everybody's
have to go through those things. Yeah,
to come to everybody's conventional idea of what is nice. Because to be honest, that was one of my brightest times, getting those kind of people off my back. But to come to the conventional things that people would mention, I think becoming the vice president of the University of Benin Medical Students Association, UBEMSA at the time,
okay.
was a really good achievement for me as well. Because at the time, you know, I remember one of my very good friends, Chinedu Moye, and he was my campaign manager at the time. He actually told me, he said, you shouldn't go for vice president, you should go for the presidency. And I asked him why. He said, because you don't have the characteristics of a vice. You
What
are a
what
leader.
what are the characteristics of advice? What did he think?
So I asked him, I said, what are the characteristics of a vice? He said, you are not going to see somebody doing what is wrong and keep quiet or echo it. You are not like that. You are not going to allow your own self-interest to mar the interest of the whole majority. And he said, most importantly, you strive for excellence in everything you do. I said, okay, why is that the most important? He said, because you want to do everything well and to perfection. He said, suddenly that makes the people around you feel less adequate. That will make the president inadequate, and you are going to have problems. He says it's not that you are not a good follower. In fact, you are so prim and proper. You are one of the best law-abiding persons I've come across. But you just do it so well and effortlessly well that the people around you are just going to have a sort of self-doubt that you did not mean to create, but will happen. So I didn't quite understand what he was saying. But then I said, you know what, Chinedu, let's just go for the vice presidency. I did, and to the glory of God, I won that election. But as the administration or the tenure, the lifespan of that ESCO went ahead, I started seeing what he meant. As I finding out that the president at the time had some less than appropriate ideas as to how finances sought should be spent. And because the health week was the main highlight of an ESCO's lifespan, which was under the jurisdiction of the vice president, but which was a tool for raising a lot of money, he decided to actually sort of usurp that post at the time. And a lot of things were going on. So you see, what he predicted was coming to pass. And interestingly, that was one of the ESCOs that started having an official car, was so supported by the deans and the provost at the time. And this was because of me and the relationship I had with these people, because they knew that we were going to strive for excellence as far as I was there. So what happened at the end of the day? I had no fear. I had no qualms putting in my resignation letter, because if at the end of the day you join something, and this is a lesson for all of us in Nigeria. If you join something with a genuine heart for the people, and you see that it is not going the people's way, it is not bettering the greater majority, and you have tried to change it, and you are not able to, you are the lone voice in the wilderness, or you are the left-handed person in a right-handed world, we should be brave enough to say, you know what, enough is enough. I am living this. And that's what I did. And that's why I say Chinedu Moyen was right in hindsight. I mean, I know I can mention his name on here, so I will. He was right. And that was an enlightening moment for me about myself. And I reflected and found out that all my years from nursery school, I was a class monitor, primary school, secondary school, I was head girl. And then, so it hadn't occurred to me at that point in time that just doing things and doing them well and being in your own lane can be a problem for others. And it's a reflection of the bigger society. That's a microcosm that reflects the bigger society of Nigeria. Because take yourself now, for example, Kevin.
Yeah.
If you are doing something and you are doing it well and generating positive feedback, you would expect that many people who are involved will say, well done, you are doing this thing right. But in Nigeria, they are going to nitpick. They are going to find what is not right. They are going to say you have done this, you've done that, so that they can become comfortable in their mediocrity. Excellence is a very scary thing for people in Nigeria, in our societies, sadly so. But we didn't start out like that. We didn't start out like that because I believe that we used to celebrate excellence many, many years ago. Because take Edo State, for example, the seat of the ancient Benin Kingdom. We could not have done business with the Portuguese if we did not have a modicum of discipline, excellence, and a track record for delivery. Where did we lose it? Where did we start to celebrate mediocrity all round? Where did we start to celebrate people for how much they bring to the table rather than a good name? Where did, when people are doing things right, we say, I go on now, what that means is we don't want this one, no, let us stay do. Where did we lose it? And it was the moment we started to put materialism ahead of what people can actually bring to the table that we started losing it. I think colonialism and the long years of military rule has actually led to a gradual disintegration of the very essence of our moral fabric in our community and our society. And yes, these are things that I reflected on following my resignation. So yeah, that was a good event for me all round. I mean, some people may think if you resign, then you can't really class it as one of the nice things that Uniben actually brought to me. But I will class it because it allowed for self-reflection and an understanding of my own self. But jokingly, and more importantly and seriously, I tell people that the best thing that came out of Uniben for me was the fact that I not only got an academic certificate, I not only got my MBBS, I got a marriage certificate as well.
Yeah, we are going to come to that because let's say some relationships, we do say it ends at Mingit. Yes, but yours did not. Yours has survived Mingit. And congratulations. Recently, yourself and your husband celebrated 20 years as a couple. Congratulations once again, madam.
Thank you.
What kept you together? Especially both of you were in medicine with the workload and all that. What made you succeed succeed academically, and as you said, a marriage certificate outside mandate. How did that? How did you? How
Oh
were you
my
able to manage that?
God, Mr. Mokaro. I think there are two things that made myself and Mr. Douglas Chukwuemeka Okor, or Dr. Douglas Chukwuemeka Okor, to work. The first one is that we are each other's best friends,
Okay.
and we are each other's greatest critics.
Okay.
So I actually met him when I was contesting the UBEMSA elections. People kept telling me, if you want to win this election, if you want to win this election, now two people you're supposed to go see you. That they call them Douglas and Peter. Peter and Douglas. What is it? I beg. Who be all these Douglas and Peter and Douglas? I said, okay. You know me now. When I don't set my mind, I want to do something. Nothing they stop up.
So it was 1 year your senior, right?
1 year my senior. Now come go ask people, I beg, who be Douglas, who be Peter? Now they say, you don't know them, Douglas and Peter. They 1 year your senior now. Then they can't describe them for me. You know, cross my mind that the Douglas and the Peter, I always see them under one laboratory in front of that pathology building for UBTH, back of UBTH that time, when they just they talk, they make noise. And me, Kevin, as I they greet everybody, they go. It's something I got from my mom, you know. So when I see people, I just greet them. Good afternoon, hello, how are you? So I know I used to greet them. Hello, how are you? And you know, and I say, one is very tall and one is short. They say, hey, that's all that be that. They said to me that they be the noise makers of medical school. So if you want to win this election, you need to go meet them. You know, the politics in medicine, in Uniben, in any of the department, is a reflection of the larger society politics. So I have to go and meet these people. So when I went to Peter, and they are really funny characters. When I went to Peter, I said, Peter, how are you? I've been sent to come and speak to you. I want to run for election. So I said, who you be, Seth? Who you be? You want to run for election? How come? Today, myself and Peter, we are best of friends. Because it was my husband's very good friend in school. But then I now also went to see Douglas, who would eventually become my husband. I said, I'm XYZ, I want to run for this election. He was like, okay, it's doable. I'll help you. He didn't even think twice about it. And that is him. That is just him. So to be honest, he actually gave me his support. Even Peter, he dragged Peter in. They gave me their support for the elections and all of that. And after the elections, we became really good friends, you know. And I remember he told me, he said, I want to be a neurosurgeon. And I said, that's great, you can do it. What he didn't realize is that I too wanted to be a neurosurgeon when I was Federal Benin and in my early days in medical school. But after I now read neuroanatomy in year 3, I was like, I beg. This one I don't fit do. And then I always used to see Professor Friday Okonofua. So, and he was an obstetrician and gynecologist. And it looked like he was happening. And there was no neurosurgeon in Uniben at the time. So I was like, I beg, I'll just do O and G as this man is happening. So Friday Okonofua is one of my really, really greatest mentors. But I actually told my husband, and I said, you can do it. And you know what he told me? He said, you are the first person I'm telling I want to do neurosurgery that has not laughed at me and said, what did you talk? You know? So you can see how we became great friends. When I knew him, he wouldn't even read a newspaper. He was somebody who was really very angry with the world as I joke with him. But gradually, we got to know each other. I love to read newspapers. I love to listen to news because that was how my father raised me. Voice of America, BBC, Voice of Nigeria, and all of that. And he started doing similar things. And today I think he's even better than me at analyzing the politics of Nigeria and the whole world. And interestingly as well, I lived with, so eventually when he told people he was getting married, they said, Douglas, you want to marry? Who want to marry Douglas? Who want to marry you? You know, and when some people got to know it was me, they were like, In fact, somebody in his class, one of the girls in his class, came to meet me and said, Loretta, now, wow, you fall our hand. You fall the big girl's hand. Douglas, come on. And of course, all the professors, lecturers, senior registrars, one of the professors said, now, wow, so now that small boy, and I just they chop you. And now, wow, you fall our hand. Though. And I was wondering, let me see, wow, I sent a message, you know, but I think when we got married, it was a very simple affair. I remember when Douglas first went to see my mom, she was like, hey, from fry pan to fire, what came on Amure? Wait for see this one bring come. Because he was wearing shorts, was wearing bedroom slippers, and I don't think he combed his hair that day. You know, my husband is eccentric in a very interesting way, a very intelligent man. It was one of those medical schools. You have exams tomorrow, and he's in a party today, and he will still pass.
Yeah.
Let me try that thing. I lived for thousands of years, you know, man. But he will still pass. He was super. He is not what he is super intelligent. It's amazing, and he has a mind that can be hyper fixated on a subject. He has grit, uncommon grit, you know, uncommon courage. Most men are very happy to have me as a friend, but fear not let them put me for house, say they want to marry me. And I remember telling my daughter, I said, I used to tell God that I want a man, I made a list, a man who will allow me to be myself, allow me to fly, and not put me in a box. A man who will be supportive, a man who doesn't drink alcohol, who doesn't smoke, who doesn't womanize. I wrote a long list that I wanted a romantic man. And God gave me everything I asked. You know, my husband is not romantic in the conventional way, but I like him. I love him for that. He is himself, he's who he is. And I think it all started at Uniben. And we've kept together because, like I said, we're best of friends. So I would come and all those professors, all those senior registrars or doctors harassing me, I'll sit down, I'll tell him about them. I'll tell him, nah, that's what I want to do now. That's what I want to do this one. He said, are you actually playing like chess? I said, yes. So he knew all of these things right from the beginning. And I'll tell couples, be very honest and open to each other, you know, and build that trust. Until today, we still have it. And if I'm not doing something right, he will tell me. If he's not doing something right, I'll tell him. And I'm his biggest critic. He's my biggest critic. If you call our house, you'll see two of us. Now, so we go argue, as they call it. You know, we will argue, and we will say, at the end of the day, next year, you'll see two of us. Oh, yeah, maybe we'll go swim. Or maybe we'll go, you know, any topic, it can be any topic. If you just be, why this orange big, why this one small? But what that has done is that it has enabled us to really communicate. We talk about everything. Yeah. I remember when we first met, we were like, how many children would you want to have? And he said one. I said, why? He said, because when I was growing up in my own house, I just felt it's hard thing to raise many children. Besides, if I want to do neural surgery, I won't have the time. So there was nothing we didn't discuss. And there was a time I asked him, why are you not combing your hair? He said, why will I comb my hair? Why? Who comb my hair? And there was a time he used to do dreadlocks. He used to carry afro. In fact, they called him in UBTH, they called him a perpetual non-compliant person. But I think what we don't realize in Nigeria is that as a society, we limit our people, we limit ourselves. We create these boundaries and we rope ourselves in. We don't liberate ourselves. A classical example is when I came to England. You see a Igbo woman, Kevin. You be man. Hello, how are you? We go greet you. But see the average Nigerian one, you greet, I not go even answer, I go just excuse this. If you probe a lot, I say, my mama said when I was growing up, don't smile at any boy, you get pregnant. Or if they see you, maybe you are talking to any boy, you are the most wayward. So if you look at it, the average Nigerian woman was not being brought up to be competitive on the global stage. It was not intentional. It was what our people knew, but they were actually retarding us. But I am lucky in the sense that my dad always used to tell me that, look, you have to interact. And my dad told me at the time, he said, because I went to meet him one day, I said, Daddy, is it one person that is just signing this central bank notes? I think that time it was Ahmed. He said, yes. I said, Daddy, I want to marry governor of central bank. He said, no. He said, don't wait to marry governor of central bank. He said, go to your class now and look for who can become the governor of central bank. So for me, at the time in Uniben, I think I took my father's advice. I went back and looked for that person who had the potentials to become the governor of central bank, the top of the food chain, whatever he could do. And I actually worked hard with him and contributed into his life. We worked hard. We've had challenges. You know, when you see people, you see only the tip of their iceberg. You don't see the bottom. The number of times we've had to fall and get up again. And together, we're going on. It's actually 21 years now of marriage. And about 23 years that I have known Douglas Loretta Ogboro-Okor.
And congratulations once again. It's a wonderful story. Let's talk about your venture into politics, into secular politics, because with what you have mentioned, you have been playing politics from school. So this time around into Edo State politics. I understand your participation with the obedient movement, with the Labour Party, with the manifesto, your contribution you made to the Labour Party manifesto for the 2023 election. So you are not new to these things. And last year, yes, you made it known that you want to govern your state. As they call you, woman of service, you brought yourself forward that you want to serve your people. What motivated that? What was the driving force behind that? Was it that you think you have been a leader right from your primary school days? Was that the reason, or was there something else that said, okay, I think I can do this. I think I should go for this position. What was the driving force?
I mean, the question is, why not if not? You know, what makes you anything less than those people who are there? Especially when you x-ray their outputs and there's not much to write home about. I mean, we'll be economical with the truth if we say that our country, our state, our communities in where we come from, our home country, that they are thriving, because they are not. And then we will also be very far from the truth if we say we have the right pegs in the right holes. We don't. So here I am. I have been in everything since it began. So you pointed out that I've always been a leader. So that trait is in me already since my nursery school days in Wee Wisdom. And then politics is in everything. In our homes, there's politics. In our churches, there's politics. In our everything, in the markets, there's politics. So sometimes when people say, oh, I don't do politics, I'm like, really? And if we don't actually determine who governs us, or we are not at the table when this governance is being arrived at, when policies are being made, then we will unfortunately allow the worst of us to lead the best of us.
Yeah.
So we actually need to take our places at the table. And I am not a novice at these tables. In fact, some of us have been working behind the scenes. You've been clapping for people who you know are not really cut out for this job. And posterity has also shown, it's not because Loretta said it, but because the indices are there, that they are not cut out for these jobs. And you let them get into these roles. I think we all owe ourselves a reflection. We all owe ourselves that task to think, how can we make things better? And to actually take our places at the table. Because, Kevin, if you are not at the table, you cannot shake the table. You cannot bring changes. And I've always understood that policies change the world on a large scale. If you look at the more resource-rich nations, they make policies that are all-encompassing, policies for the masses, policies that add value to human life. I mean, you have been in the UK now for a while. You are crossing the road and you hear at the green man, and you are wondering which kind of noise be this one. Or you see some knobs, it'll be like, say, they make the place where you want for cross uneven. And you're wondering, have you ever stopped to wonder why that is there? Or you enter a lift and you will see the buttons, it's like there are knobs on the button. And you also hear it, you don't press floor 1. If you see, say, floor 1. Why? Because they are thinking of everybody. That sound is for those who are differently abled. They can't see. We call them disabled, but I say they are differently able. So when they hear the sound, they know that it is now green. When they feel the rough area on the ground with their cane or their walking stick, they know they've reached a junction. When you are pushing a buggy, you will see where the curb flattens out, because they've thought that if there's a baby in that buggy, it will be stressful for mothers and their partners to push it up. So everybody is thought about, and everybody is made, you have provision made for everybody. But the question is, in our own part of the world, are people truly adding value to human life? Are they rulers or are they leaders? Because they are two different things. You can be a ruler and not a leader. Are they practicing transformational leadership? You don't need to buy a man fish. You need to teach him how to fish. Or are they weaponizing poverty so that people will not now know their left from their right? They will eat the future of their children's children today. Do the calculation, Kevin. If I gave you 1 million naira and say, vote for me, how much is a bottle of Heineken in Nigeria? You know, calculate dividing that 1 million by that bottle of Heineken for 365 days. And you will see that at the end of the day, that money is meaningless. But if we gather that money and we open an industry, we are going to be able to employ labor. We are going to be able to change people's lives. So for me, over the years, growing up and see the inadequacies in the system, I decided, as our people would say, that or kese, especially that means, translated, it is that message you send yourself that is quickest, especially if you have empathy for the people and you want to add value to human life. So I decided to take my place at the table. And for your information, there ain't no leaving that table. We are not leaving that table. And I expect more of us, to come and join us, join hands, work together to actually make sure we change what is happening in the system. Because if you look at other nations, resource-rich countries, you find out that is the critical mass, which is less than 1% of the entire population, that make changes, that drive these policies, and that hold leaders accountable. So we all need to come together. And that's why I'm there. That's why I'm at the table. It's not for me. It's not for me. I think God has been kind to us. I don't think I will be hungry again in my life, per se. I don't think my children will come and look for schools now in Nigeria to attend, because they finished university, and those the other ones are entering. So at the end of the day, we need to leave our comfort zone so that we can shake that polity, agitate it, and get the best out of it. And that's why we are in it. And we're not giving up. We're not stopping at all. Edo State must get better, and Nigeria, by extension, must begin to take her rightful place as the giant of Africa. The sleeping giant of Africa must be woken up, and it is each our duty. The problem is that everybody feels it's the other person's work. Like, I bet they are not fit to. Let me tell us today that blood and sweat must flow to water the tree of liberty.
Thank you, Madam Loretta, for that. Let's take a step back to Uniben. You have been president of the University of Benin Alumni Association, United Kingdom branch, and for some years you organized leadership programs for the student union officials of the university, where you brought different personalities to discuss ways of leadership, management, communication, and all that. You had that program running for years. I want to ask, how effective do you think the program has been, especially with issues we do have occasionally with student union government? Presently, we all know what happened to the student union government for the university. So, how effective do you think that program has been?
I want to actually give thanks to Almighty God for actually allowing our skills to be put to use alongside that of many other persons, because what you see us do is not the work of one person, it's an entire team. University of Benin Alumni Association UK branch has been working to give her best to our home institution across board, across all angles. We have some scholarship programs from some of the chapters, especially London chapter. And then we have the ESCO, actually the National ESCO in UK, organizing the Student Institution Conflict Resolution Series. And we used to do that face-to-face since 2019, but then COVID came and we took it online as well. 2018, 2019, then COVID came and we took it online. And why did we start it? Like you said, institutions all over the world have management, and then they have the people who are being trained or who are working in that institution. And conflicts does arise. Once you have people in a unit, conflicts will arise, even in our homes. But one thing we found is that conflict resolution is not really our strong point in Nigerian African society per se. And conflict prevention is not also our major forte. Now, generations are changing. The way people see things are changing. And sometimes, without knowing it, we want to be stuck in the past. So you now have a new generation who believe in speaking up, who believe in interrogating processes. But maybe 10 or 5 years ago, for instance, take children. Children were just like flies on the wall, a painting on the wall. You ask your parents for something and they say, keep quiet, or more than, you can't get into this conversation. Or, you know, but I was raised by a father who would say 3 questions. Let's sit down, let's discuss. And I think that actually helped to champion this course along with the rest of the team while we started that student institution engagement. So that the students will have an avenue organized by a neutral body. So it is not the students that is organizing it, it is not the management that is organizing it, but members of the alumni who are organizing it. So it means that there is no vested interest per se, because we've been students, some of us are in the management, And we want the forward movement of Uniben. We've gone out. We've seen how it's been done in other places. So we bring them together to talk. And I mean, I think you have been in some of them, but it's really helpful because representatives of different groups, they all come and they say, oh, management, this is what you've been doing that we don't like. And the vice chancellors over time, we need to thank them. They've been very, very supportive and helpful. They attend and they discuss with the students. And then we have action points as to what to do so that we don't get into the same issues or quagmire again moving forward. So they were really helpful. And we also had the leaders loading group where we had potential leaders, people who were going to run for SUG presidents or in the ESCO. And we used to have them in a group where we actually dish out leadership skills to them. So this was like catching them young before they even got into those posts. And I think it really, really helped. There are times that we've had to mediate into different crises, waddle into them, call the vice chancellor, speak with the SUG president, and at the end of the day, we are able to properly conflict resolve. But I think the most beautiful part for us in the University of Benin Alumni Branch United Kingdom is that we were also able to forestall a lot of crises because the students were able to speak to us and we could anonymously, because we can get across to management, tell management that, look, this is cooking in this corner of the school or with this set of people. Can you quickly look into it so it doesn't escalate? And I mean, all the team in the UK have been brilliant. Sometimes we've had to collaborate with Ubana in America as well. And it's just been a brilliant, brilliant thing. We've also collaborated with the home alumni bodies as well. So it's something that even though UBOC, University of Benin Alumni Association in the United Kingdom, we started, we expect every alumni to actually find a way to key into doing these kind of things. And the Manchester chapter have also keyed into getting their own voices heard as the Sheffield chapter as well. And when we had the Milton Keynes chapter, the similar thing. So it's not.
So if I will come in here, is there any plan? Is there anything in the pipeline that the association is planning?
Yes.
Oh, okay, please, we would like to know as well.
Yes, I will use this opportunity to actually announce that I have been saying Wala presidency now, because I am often amazed when people they actually say they want third tenure, fourth tenure, because if you do your work well, by the end of your tenure, you are ready to go. So what I'm saying is I've been saying, oh, let's hand over to a new set of ESCO. But a lot of things happened. COVID did not help us. We had a grand global reunion in Sheffield in 2019. Everybody was here from across the world. The question then was, who remained for Uniben? You know, not only Gateman, everybody. We had up to, all the professors, all the principal officers, alumni members across the world. They were in Sheffield. And we actually planned that, 2021, but COVID was there. So 2025,
Okay.
we are going to have another reunion.
Okay.
And I will be very glad to hand over the baton to the next president of the University of Benin Alumni Association. I'm very pleased.
Okay, Madam President, I know your assistant when it comes to excellence. You're handing over in 2025. I know, is there any program, like a give back project to our institution that you are coordinating on behalf of the...
Thank you that you are asking this question. We've always had different programs. Like I told you, even the chapters do their own programs. London chapter, for instance, gives scholarship cash to different people. And don't forget that my own personal charity has for over going on 13 years now celebrated excellence in Uniben. In fact, give laptops to the best graduating students in surgery, and we added on the best mentor and lecturer. And just to announce here now that even from next year, we are going to be giving a significant cash prize to the best overall graduating students in the College of Medicine. And then we extended this.
Is that coming from your foundation?
That's coming from my foundation, Ashanti Graham Foundation. Ashanti Graham Foundation, but it overlaps because when you give all round. So for a long time, and I mean this is really tricky, but I'll talk about it. There is one of our erudite alumni, Constantine Seki, who we were working on a project of independent power generation for Uniben from University of Benin Alumni Association UK branch. And we all were working hard to see that this happens. But somewhere along the line, we've had administrative bottlenecks. And it saddens my heart that recently Uniben is being made to pay very high rates to BDEC, you know, and it's something we need to think out of the box and see how we can really work around that on the long term. So I actually called Constantine Seki yesterday to say, where have we missed it? Let's sort of go back to the drawing board and get this project achieved. And we're going to work on that as well. But interestingly, one of our alumni gave a 60-foot container filled with books. And the story of Uniben Alumni UK will not be complete without Chief Aloysius Ihezie, who donated books to our library. And the books filled the Uniben library and spilled out into Edo State. And it had to be put into other schools and libraries in Edo State. You also have people like Thomas Ilube, who was nominated as the most influential Black man in the United Kingdom. I think was in 2017. You know, and all that he does to give back to science education, especially for the girl child across, although the school is situated in Ghana, but I mean, people from sub-Saharan Africa can attend the school. So a lot of collaborations are going on individually and as a group. But I think as the umbrella ESCO for UBOC, our task is to coordinate them. There was a boy who recently, he found a wallet and returned it. And do you know that someone in the United Kingdom, through UBOC, actually helped to finish paying that boy's school fees for the time he had left in the institution? So we actually do a lot. But I think for us now, before we go, we should take that power project seriously. Because God said, let there be light, and there was light. And light drives away darkness. And we need light. You know, in Uniben, I think we should really take it, resurrect it, and make sure it works, and get across to the Vice Chancellor and see where we missed it before, and try and make amends with that project. But by and large, come 2025, we'll have to embark at that reunion on a fundraiser that will be geared into doing something of sustenance for the school. But we decided that whatever it is going to be will be decided by the student body. So we'll have to fine-tune all of this as an ESCO. I don't make unilateral decisions, and we'll come back to the table to say, okay, this is what we've decided to spend whatever we get on it for. But I am more than happy that my years as the president of the University of Benin Alumni Association is drawing to an end. I mean, it should have ended by now, but for some technicalities. So I'm hoping that people like you and the huge influx of students into the UK, that will recruit a lot of new members to come and inject pizzazz into the organization, because robed in our purple and gold, we must stand tall anywhere in the world where we are.
Thank you very much. I think we'll anchor on there. Thank you, Madam President. It has been an engaging time. We a lot of revelations, a lot of talking points. Thank you. We really appreciate you for making time to speak to us today. Thank you, Madam
No
President.
problem, Kevin. And I'm going to say to you and to your entire team that keep on doing what you're doing. You are actually doing what other institutions do, that I have come across in the different countries I've been in. And I've often said that an institution's strength is directly proportional to the cohesion and strength of their alumni. Look at Cambridge, look at Harvard. You know, look at Edinburgh. I'm an alumni of alumna one of Edinburgh, and you know these institutions are big because their alumni body is thriving. So well done, because you're actually putting Uniben on the map. You know, somebody asked me recently, I watched General Ogboro-Okor's talk and I was really gingered, you know. So people, even students who are about to enter Uniben in this modern day world of AI and technology, they are going to go onto the internet and Google Uniben. And what's going to come out? By the time they see many alumni that have gone before them, male and female, you know, they are going to say, yes, this is the school I want to go. And very soon you are going to be able to create bilateral, multilateral engagements with Uniben because of all these people you are bringing out from different parts of the world to actually come and speak. So well done and kudos to your team for what you're doing. And I will say
Thank you
there
very
will be
much.
challenges. There will be challenges. You will have to negotiate them, but please do not stop. We need to keep
Thank you very much.
to take our places at the table. There are only two schools in the world, Uniben
Uniben
and
and
the
the
others.
others. Yeah. Thank you very much, Madam Loretta, Madam President. Thank you for your time. I will be speaking to the President, University of Benin Alumni Association, United Kingdom branch. She is a consultant gynecologist both in the United Kingdom and in Nigeria. She is a politician. So we had a wonderful time with her. You need to subscribe to the channel. Next week, Wednesday, we have another guest with us on the show. Thank you and bye for now.